In this lecture, we will be going over the details panel of Lightroom and especially this sharpening tool. First thing we should know that is why we sharpen our images. Sharpened images or sharp images look aesthetically pleasing to the eye than soft or blurry ones. The first step in taking sharp photos is to act right away on the camera while taking pictures and take sharp photos as much sharp as you can in your camera. To do that, we must remember some settings that I have already talked about, which is shutter speed. As we know, shutter speed is the amount of time that your camera spends taking a picture. So if we take it too long and our subject or the subject of our photograph is moving or we are not holding the camera steady, we will get some blurry images and unsharp images. So next time keep that in mind, and if you are shooting a portrait, you can instruct your model to be steady, or you can compensate by using ISO and wider f-stops. On landscape photographs, the important thing that you should remember is f-stop. We know that if we go too wide on the f-stop, we will get shallow depth of field. And on landscape, generally our subject is far away, and if we go too shallow or too wide on the f-stop, we will not get the subject of our image in focus. So in landscape photograph, keep in mind that you should keep your aperture around f8, because if we go tighter on the f-stop or the aperture, we will get a wider focus area and most of our subject or background will be in focus. And the ISO also has some effect on the sharpness of an image. In some cases, if our images are not sharp enough and we see that they are not sharp, you can increase the ISO just by 100 or 200 and you will get much more better sharp images than before. And if for some reason you could not get sharp images in your camera, don't worry, Lightroom has a very powerful tool to add sharpening and sharpen your images in post-processing. We'll be going over that in this lecture. The sharpening tool of Lightroom is located in the details panel, the first setting, or the first bunch of sliders. You have an arrow button in here too. If you collapse it, you'll see a very zoomed in preview of our image. By using this window, we can see the results of the effects right away, and we will know better what the sliders are doing. We will not be using this, and I will just zoom in the image from here because it's more visible to you and you can see the effects right away. The sharpening area, the first slider is amount. As we know, amount is option that controls the amount of sharpening that we are adding in our image, as you're seeing the results in here. The next slider is radius. Radius is the size of sharpening area around the edges. For example, if it is 1, it means 1 pixel around the areas. Lightroom will sharpen 1 pixel around the edges. And if it is 3, it means it will sharpen 3 pixels around the edges. A very helpful key or shortcut is to hold Alt while changing the radius or doing any editing with sharpening, because it will show you the grayscale of that image, and you can see what each slider does very clearly. And we say that radius is used to control the sharpening areas around the edges. And we see that if we go too far, we'll be adding lots of areas to the sharpening. And if we go to the 0.5, Lightroom will just sharpen the large edges. The next slider is details. Radius is used to control that areas that are being sharpened. Detail is used to control the amount of sharpening on that areas. 0 means only control the large edges, and 100 means sharpen even the smallest edges or details of the image, as you are seeing in here. The masking slider is a very helpful feature in the sharpening areas because it will automatically analyze and see or unsharpen the areas that does not need to be sharpened. For example, if I go too far and with the masking, we can select or we can tone down the effects of sharpening. As you're seeing in here, it will mask out the areas that does not need to be sharpened. And yeah, this is the before and this is the after of having sharpening. And while sharpening, the problems that we'll face is over sharpening. If we over sharpen our images, in images, we will see some lines on the edge of our photos. and our photos will look very bad and also very displeasing to the eye. The next problem with adding sharpening is by adding sharpening, we will be adding noise to our image. And if we go too far, we'll be adding a lot of noise to our image, especially if our image is already very noisy and has high ISO. If we add sharpening to it, we will make the image worse and the noise problem will get very bad and out of control. The other problem that with over sharpening happens is we will get some zigzag lines on our image. In this image, we don't see that much of the side effects of sharpening because this image is shot raw and contains a lot of information. And if we are applying the same result effects and the same edits on a JPEG image, we will see the results much better and we will get a lot of nice zigzag lines and lines around the edges. So while using sharpening in Lightroom, be careful and use it properly. And you see in here that if you go too much, you'll add weird colors, weird textures on the subject and on the photograph. And yeah, this was all about sharpening in Lightroom, all the sliders, what they do and how to use it. In the next lecture, we will be going over noise reduction and see you in the next lecture.